Hi, everyone. This is Lee Generous at Leveroni Financial. I'd like to welcome you to our Social Security presentation. I have Steve Calandra from Nationwide's Retirement Institute, who's going to share some of his expertise on the topic. And Steve, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Lee. And welcome, everybody. I was thinking about what's the best way to try to engage you as soon as we open this up. And I was thinking of the story of a guy named Tim Bowers. So bear with me for just a second because it's my favorite. Several years back in Columbus, Ohio, Tim Bowers walks into one of the local banks, robs it for $80, surrenders himself to the security guard, and when he goes to court, he begs the judge to please send him to jail for 3 years. How old is he? He's 62 and a half. And if we think about today's topic, what is he going to have in 3 short years that he doesn't have between the ages of 62 and 63? Medicare kicks in at age 65. Full retirement age for Social Security is currently 66 and migrating out to age 67. When he actually gets to court, the judge looks at him and says, "Mr. Bowers, this sounds like an awful financial plan," to which he replies, "Judge, I've made too many mistakes. This was not my financial plan my whole life, but it's the financial plan I'm left with. Can you help me?" And the reason why I wanted to open up today's session with the story of Mr. Bowers is it speaks directly to the importance of today's topic, which is Social Security, a choice of a lifetime. Now, by way of introduction, my name is Steve Calandra, and I represent a division of Nationwide that's called the Nationwide Retirement Institute, and that's where this information comes from today. We are tasked with breaking down and simplifying some of the macro issues that retirees face. We do this by bringing you education and insights, actionable tools that you and your financial professional can use, and ongoing consultative support. Please be reminded that today's session is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not to be construed as any tax or legal advice. If you have any questions that lean in those directions, please seek a qualifying attorney or CPA to get your questions answered. What we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be threefold. Number one, we're going to talk about Social Security and why we call it a choice of a lifetime. It's where I like to say, why is this actually an important topic? Number two, we're going to go through the basics of Social Security. And then lastly, we're going to back into how we can help you manage the discussion. And putting my canned presentation aside, ladies and gentlemen, the benefit to being on today's training is this. Can we all agree that Social Security is kind of confusing? If I do my job correctly, I want to help corral your thoughts around the basics of Social Security, and you'll find that it's not nearly as confusing as you might have thought. And then we'll show you how you can get your advanced questions answered through your financial professional team. So let's get started with Social Security, a choice of a lifetime, or as I like to say, why is this such an important topic? All equations for Social Security are based on this concept of what's called FRA, or full retirement age. It's currently age 66, and it's migrating out to age 67, depending on what year you were born. If you take a look at the center column highlighted in orange or yellow, you will see that of the people that are waiting till their full retirement age from Social Security, it turns out to be 3 out of 10 people in the population. The reason why this may be important to you is that if you understand how the Social Security system works, you have the opportunity to potentially optimize it to your benefit. Now, the other thing about full retirement age is not just that all equations for Social Security are based on it. In addition to that, what you want to know is if you play by the rules of Social Security, there are benefits that open up to you around full retirement age that you may forego if you elect to take early retirement benefits before your FRA. The last thing that is imperative to understand is while you've been working your whole life through tax mandate, you or your spouse have had to pay your Social Security taxes. You have funded the Social Security trust. So doesn't it make sense that you start to learn how to get as much of that money back, and if at all possible, maybe even a return on that investment in the way of optimization? Now, you can take early retirement benefits from the Social Security Trust as early as age 62. And as you'll see here, 3 out of 10 people in the population still have the knee-jerk reaction to take their benefits as early as possible, which is fine. There's many people in America that need to or have to take retirement benefits as soon as they can, and we fully respect that. However, I'd like to ask you this question. Can we all agree that across this time horizon between 62 and 70 years old, different people in America might want to take their benefits at different times based on their own situation? And if that makes sense to you, can we further agree that it does not make sense that 6 out of 10 people in America will elect to take early retirement benefits, knowing full well that we all agree this is a confusing topic, that they might be missing out on certain advantages because they don't have the right information or data, and they might be pulling their own form of Bowers. And we don't want to see anyone that goes through this type of training make any mistake when it comes to the guaranteed income that could be received from Social Security. So let me walk you through the number one mistake that I have seen over the past 7 years with respect to folks filing Social Security. When someone like Lee or someone from Leveroni Financial brings someone to the Nationwide Retirement Institute and they are getting ready to turn age 62, it's very common that people will want to turn on their Social Security income as soon as possible, but they're planning on continuing to work. And many people in the American population are not aware of the fact that Social Security has what is called an earnings test. Now, underneath this earnings test, you're not allowed to make any more than a certain amount of money before Social Security starts to begin withholding a portion of your Social Security check if you elect to take your retirement benefits from Social Security before your full retirement age. So looking over on the left side of the slide, highlighted in light blue, if you elect to take early retirement benefits before your full retirement age, in any given year up to the year you turn FRA, you are not allowed to make any more than $18,240 in 2020. Moving into 2021, you're not allowed to make any more than $18,960 before Social Security begins to withhold $1 for every $2 above that threshold. I find the best way to get your brain around this is to annualize the numbers. What this means is for every $10,000 above this threshold that you earn, Social Security would withhold $5,000 of the Social Security benefit. Moving into the middle column, in the year one turns full retirement age, if your birthday is in the second half of the year, you might be collecting early retirement benefits from Social Security in the first half of the year. What you will notice is the equation is much less punitive. In 2020, you can collect up to $48,600 in income. Moving into 2021, that is going to go up to $50,520. And then Social Security is going to withhold $1 for every $3 above that threshold. Much less punitive. Moving over to the right-hand column. If you play by the rules of Social Security and you wait till your full retirement age to declare your benefits for the very first time, there's no earnings test because you played by the rules. Therefore, you can make any amount of money in earnings, collect your full Social Security benefit, and there will be no withholdings underneath this earnings test because there is no earnings test. 2 additional things you need to understand about the earnings test is this. Any money that was potentially withheld will come back to you when you turn your full retirement age. But do you think it's like winning the lottery or the Publishers Clearinghouse with Terry Bradshaw showing up at your house with the big check and the video crew waking you up out of bed? Of course not. Instead, what they do is they extrapolate it out over a long period of time. and they slightly optimize your Social Security check moving forward from full retirement age on. So not all is lost. But when we say that Social Security is a choice of a lifetime, it's because we know if you don't have the right information or data, you could potentially be leaving a little bit of money on the table through this with things, and we don't want to see anyone pull their own form of Bowers or make any mistakes. So now that we've gone over why Social Security is a choice of a lifetime or so important, let's now walk through the basics of Social Security, but you can't really do this without doing a brief history lesson. The Social Security Act of 1935 was enacted when who was president? And don't worry, it's a rhetorical question because this is a recorded session. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. More importantly, what was the economic conditions of our country in the mid-1930s? We're trying to pull out of the Great Depression. Over 25% unemployment. Over 25% of our nation's elderly were homeless without a roof over their head, waiting in bread lines without food in their belly. And they didn't even have enough money to go to the doctor. And many of our nation's elderly literally perished because they didn't have a little bit of a safety net to get them through that tough time. So our country decided to do something radical for the time period. They decided through tax mandate, they were going to force every employer who hadn't gone out of business yet and every employee who still had a job to pay a brand new tax. Can you imagine how exciting or controversial that might have been? But their thought process was this: if they can structurally engineer this correctly, and we fast forward to that tech bubble burst of the early 2000s, or that subprime collateralized event, whatever that was, or when we get to the great pandemic of 2020 into 2021, our nation's elderly would have just a little bit of guaranteed income to cover their most precious and non-negotiable expenses. You see, once you have a 10-year working history paying into the Social Security Trust, Social Security will open up a file for you, and you will be entitled to guaranteed income backed by the full faith and credit of the United States federal government. Not only that, they've indexed this income payment to you for inflation to try to do the best job to make sure you can maintain your quality of life as goods and services inflate throughout your retirement. This is such a special program. They offer survivor benefits and benefits for those you love. And there is never, ever a time where Uncle Sam is going to tax 100% of your Social Security check. So Social Security actually gets preferential tax treatment.
And Steve, at most, Social Security is taxed 85% generally, correct?
That is correct. There is never, ever a time more than 85% of your Social Security check will ever be taxed. That's correctly.
And in the best case scenario for, significantly low income, it can be 100% tax free.
That is absolutely correct. And that is the ultimate goal for people that we can help achieve that. You're actually right. All right. In order to get your brain around the basics of Social Security, all I want you to understand is that it's all about timing. Looking at this slide, starting in the middle of the slide again, if you happen to have been born before 1960, your full retirement age is going to be somewhere around age 66 or 66 in some months. And if you wait to your full retirement age, you're going to collect 100% of your entitlement from Social Security. Moving to the left into the gray bars, if you would like to take early retirement benefits, you can do so as early as age 62, and you will notice that you will receive actuarially less than what you were entitled to in comparison to waiting to your full retirement age. Therefore, if you want to take it, like 3 out of 10 people in the population at age 62, you'll only be entitled to 75% of what you could have collected at your full retirement age. You will also notice that every full 12 months that you can delay closer to your full retirement age, you can get a higher and higher percentage of your entitlement. Starting from the middle, moving to the right-hand side of the slide. If you would like to delay past your full retirement age, you can do so up to age 70, and you can optimize the Social Security comes in, because every year you delay, you will be rewarded with an 8% delayed income credit that increases your monthly income from Social Security. Therefore, if you can delay up to age 70, you can tack on top of your full retirement age entitlement an additional 32% more income. So the highest check you could collect from Social Security is not at your full retirement age. It would be delaying out to age 70. What that means is for people that delay between 62 all the way out to 70, they can predictably increase the guaranteed income coming from the Social Security Trust by upwards of 76%. Now, there is a little bit of predictability in there, but you need to keep in mind that the legislators will manage the Social Security Trust from time to time. So it's not a guarantee, but there is a little bit of predictability that's in there. So one of the things you may want to do after today's training is you might want to reach out to your financial professional at Leveroni and ask them how much of that 76% upside should I try to capture, if any of it at all? Because the answer to that question is going to be different for everybody. This next slide is almost the same exact thing, but it's for anyone that happened to have been born in 1960 or later. What you'll notice is all of the bars have moved one over to the right. That means that anyone that was born 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. 1 year later than the other folks on the other slide. Moving to the left into the gray bars, if you want to take your income as early as age 62, you'll notice that you're only entitled to 70% of what you could collect at your full retirement age. And all of the bars from the last slide have now moved over one to the right. At 63, you can now collect 75%, so on and so forth. Moving all the way over to the right-hand side, if you want to delay past your full retirement age, up to age 70, you can do so. But that last 8% delayed income credit bar has fallen off. That means that if you delay out to age 70, you can only tack on top of your entitlement a 24% premium. But if you look over the same span of 62 out to age 70, you'll also notice that that 76% upside has now moved to 77%, virtually the same. So I submit to you after today's training, you might want to reach out to your financial professional and ask the same question. As I think about preparing for Social Security down the road, how much of that 77% upside should I try to capture, if any of it at all? You see, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the topic of Social Security from a basic perspective, it's very simple, and it's all about timing. So now that we went over why it's such an important topic, and we went over the basics of Social Security, how can we help start managing the Social Security discussion? Boston College in 2016 had done a study that submits that by the time someone gets ready for Social Security, there's over $10 billion left on the table by spouses incorrectly filing Social Security with related to marriage benefits. So I'm going to go through the 3 most common filing rules and options related to marriage to help you avoid some of the mistakes that others have made. The first filing rule and option is spousal filing rules. This is when you have a married couple that is 62 years old or older, both are still living, and they've been married for at least 1 year. As long as one spouse is currently collecting their Social Security income, the counter spouse can collect up to 50% of the claiming spouse's entitlement at their full retirement age. That was a mouthful. So let me back up for a second and anchor in the lesson. My mother and father followed a traditional depressionary, older baby boomer generation family model. My father was the breadwinner. My father was the CFO of the household. My mother, on the other hand, she was the CEO, COO of the house. She ran everything else. Unfortunately, in that model, my mother did not have a 10-year working history paying into the Social Security Trust. So her retirement benefits are solely dependent upon who she chooses to partner with throughout her life and marriage. So when my father, who had a robust earnings history, when he started collecting his Social Security income, If my mother waited to her full retirement age to claim her spousal benefits, she could have collected a full 50% of my father's entitlement at his full retirement age. In other words, if my father could have collected $2,000 and he was collecting his Social Security income, if my mother waited to her full retirement age, she could have collected an additional $1,000. So the household now has $3,000 coming in retirement. Spousal filing rules are when you have two spouses that are still alive. When one of those spouses passes away, there are a whole different set of rules for surviving spouses. As long as this couple has been married for 9 months, benefits can now be taken by the survivor 2 years prior to the retirement trust. They can actually take benefits as early as age 60. What can they collect? The survivor can collect up to the deceased spouse's entitlement at their full retirement age. And remember those 8% delayed income credits? They also filter down to the survivor. There's more that goes along with surviving rules that you might want to be aware of. We encourage you to reach out to your financial professional if you have any questions on this, but I will leave you with this before I go to the next slide, and that is this, ladies and gentlemen. That earnings test does apply from the beginning. So if you happen to be a survivor or you're working with your parents and one had passed away, just please keep in mind that if the surviving spouse is still working, you need to calculate a potential reduction in what might be collected. Divorced spouses comes with a new set of filing rules and options separate from surviving spouses and spousal benefits. Now you have to have been married for at least 10 years before you got a divorce. You still have to be currently unmarried. And if you were divorced for over 2 years, check this out. As long as you and your spouse are over age 62, your ex-spouse does not have to open up their Social Security file. Your client, you do not have to talk to your ex-spouse in any way whatsoever. All you have to do is take your marriage certificate and your divorce decree, make it available to Social Security, and they will open up everything that you need to file for your divorce benefit. Now, what do those benefits possibly look like? While both ex-spouses are still alive, spousal rules look exactly the same. You can collect up to 50% of your ex-spouse's file as long as you wait to your full retirement age. When your ex-spouse passes away, survivor benefits are in play. That's the good news. Hey, Lee, you want to know what the bad news is?
Of course.
There's no negative impact to the ex-spouse. See, my number one question when I get to this slide in a live setting is folks always like to ask me, you mean I can collect off my ex-spouse's file and that might actually hurt them? And the answer is no. So the good news is you might be able to optimize your Social Security, but there's no negative impact to the ex-spouse or their new family.
Now,
Yes.
can an ex-spouse claim the benefit and delay their own?
That was a loophole that used to be available underneath the file and restrict with spousal benefits that has now been suspended and is no longer available, Lee. Good question. It was wonderful when that was there, but that's no longer a reality. So moving forward, how can we further help you flush out and manage the discussion? The Nationwide Retirement Institute makes available at no cost to anyone that sees this training through Leveroni Financial a free Social Security assessment. In this free assessment, we're going to put up to 4 alternative strategies to help you and your financial professional flush out what might be in your best interest. If you're looking at this slide, we provide the gray bar on the right-hand side. That gray bar right there, that's going to show you what if you took your Social Security income as quick as possible. It's the first data point. All the way over on the left-hand side, you'll see the black or navy blue bar. We're going to run your information through the 3 marriage-related filing rules and options we just went over, and we're going to find one that might optimize your Social Security, and we're going to put that in report as a second data point. You can work with your financial professional to request 2 alternative strategies in between, and through the process of elimination, you can run as many of these reports as you'd like. And through the process of elimination, you can whittle down to what might be in your best interest with respect to how you want to file your Social Security. We're going to offer break-even analysis in the report. We're going to make sure we put income gaps to help you understand how much income you need in retirement and compare that income need to where the guaranteed income is going to come in from Social Security. You see the white space between the top lines and the bar graph. You know what those are? Those are your problem. And that's where an income planning financial professional is worth their weight in gold to help you fit the pieces of your financial puzzle together to bridge this gap as long as possible and make sure that you do not have any white space there. We're going to take each one of these graphical representations and we're going to break it down and show you the numbers behind it that made that graph. This is where your financial professional is going to look on the right-hand side, and they're going to look to see if you have a green or a red number. If you have a red number, that means you have a gap. That is where financial planning happens. If you happen to have a pension coming in, they're going to subtract the pension from that red number. If you still have a red number, that's where they're going to look at the product mix and start to make recommendations to you to say, how can we get that red number possibly down to as close to zero as possible? Your financial professional through Leveroni Financial is also going to use this material to further help them populate all of the financial planning softwares they use. So they may use this report in a vacuum, or they may use this with the other tools that they have. Ultimately, what you want to know is the way you get this is through a one-page client questionnaire that is called the 360-degree Fact Finder. If you would like to receive one of these complimentary reports at absolutely no cost to you to help you figure out what you might want to do with your Social Security decision, what I invite you to do is make sure you engage with your financial professional after today's training. You can reach out to them or be open to them reaching out to you. Fill out this one-page request form front and back, submit it to your financial professional, and within 3 to 5 days, they will return back to you a customized assessment that it was custom tailored to your information. Ladies and gentlemen, our goal in doing today's training was twofold. Number one, we view Social Security as being a choice of a lifetime, and it's very important. You've been paying into that Social Security trust, and we want to make sure that you get every dollar out of it that you possibly can, and we don't want to see anyone pull their own form of Bowers. We want to walk you through the basics of Social Security, and most importantly, we want to offer you a complimentary report at absolutely no cost to you if it will help you have a more secure retirement. I'd also like to remind you how we started today's presentation with the story of my friend, Mr. Bowers. And if you want to know if that was a true story, I invite you, when we get off today's training, to do a Google search for Tim Bowers and put in the 2 words, bank robber, after his name, and you can read all the articles that were written by him when he came out of jail 3 years later, because it was a true story and the judge gave him exactly what he asked for. Now, I think we can all agree that that's a very bad plan B, and I don't want this for anyone that goes through today's training. So if today's presentation has spoken to you, please feel free to take us up on this free report and make sure that you seek advice from a trusted professional like those at Leveroni Financial. With that said, I thank you for allowing me to instruct today's session, and I'd like to turn it over to Lee, our gracious host.
Steve, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time today. I know that we've used this for a lot of our clients entering their retirement years or even just planning for their retirement years. It's been a great tool for us. I mean, we look at it for all of our clients. We don't necessarily want to tell anyone what to do, so to say. We want to more educate our clients on what their options are to help them make an informed decision. With that being said, I'd like to thank Steve for his time. Wish everyone a great day, and please connect with any questions that you might have. Take care and all the best.